Taken from a true story that happens in a small village, there is a child with intellectual disabilities. He has difficulty getting access to appropriate education. The nearest school did not have the facilities or trained teachers to handle this child. As a result, the child is forced to study at home or not go to school at all. This story is a reflection of millions of other children who still do not get the same opportunities. This is one of the challenges in implementing the inclusive education in Indonesia. So, I'm Rani Karlina. Today, I would like to talk about a topic that is very important in this age with the title Inclusive Education, Building an Equal Future. Inclusion, especially in the context of education, has become an increasingly crucial issue in global discourse. The concept is not just about including all individuals in one space, but rather creating an environment that allows everyone, regardless of background, ability, or physical condition, to participate fully and equally. How does it relate to human values? I have 3 points here. Firstly, human dignity, and then social justice, and the last, tolerance and diversity. For the first, human dignity, inclusion recognizes the dignity of every individual and their right to a quality education. Everyone, without exception, observe an opportunity to learn and develop. And the second, social justice. Inclusion is a manifestation of social justice. All individuals, regardless of their differences, deserve to be treated fairly and equally. And last, tolerance and diversity. Inclusion encourages us to value diversity and build a tolerant society. By accepting differences, we can create a more harmonious environment. And then, what does this have to do with the Sustainable Development Goals? There is 3 points here. For the first, quality education. Inclusion is one of the critical pillars in achieving quality education by ensuring that all children, including those with special needs, can access the same education. And the second, reduce inequality. Inclusion helps reduce social and economic inequality. By providing equal opportunities for all, we can create a more just and prosperous society. And the third, sustainable cities and societies. Inclusion is also relevant to the development of inclusive cities where all citizens can actively participate in community life. What does this have to do with global challenges? Okay, for the first, globalization. Globalization has brought us to an increasingly connected world. Inclusion is important to prepare young people to live and work in diverse environments. And the second, climate change. Climate change and natural disaster can affect access to education. Inclusion ensures that all individuals, including those affected by disaster, can continue their education. And the third, conflict and humanitarian crisis. Conflict and humanitarian crisis often disrupt education. Inclusion is important to ensure that children affected by conflict can return to school and continue their learning. Why is inclusion important? What are the benefits for individuals, communities, and countries? Inclusion brings many positive benefits on many levels. Let's take a look at each one. First, benefit of inclusion for individuals. For example, increased self-confidence. Individuals feel valued and accepted. this increasing self-confidence and self-esteem. And the second, maximum potential development. Every individual has unique potential. An inclusive environment provides opportunities for them to develop that potential optimally. And the second and the third, better social skill. Interacting with people from different backgrounds help develop social skills such as empathy, tolerance, and cooperation. And the fourth, better mental well-being. Feeling accepted and part of a group can improve mental well-being. So, what is the benefits of inclusion for society? I have 4 points here. For the first, a stronger society. An inclusive society is stronger because it values difference and diversity. And the second, improved quality of life. People's quality of life improves. All members of society have equal access to resources and opportunities. And the third, innovation. An inclusive environment encourages new ideas and innovation due to multiple perspectives. And the fourth, conflict reduction. By respecting differences, social conflict can be reduced. And the last, benefits of inclusion for the country. I have 3 examples. For the first, economic growth. An inclusive society has the potential for higher productivity, which can drive economic growth. And secondly, improvement of the country's image. Countries that uphold the values of inclusion will have a positive image in the eyes of the world. And the third, sustainable development. Inclusion is one of the key pillars of sustainable development. But unfortunately, which inclusion have many benefits. In practice, we often encounter challenges that hinder the realization of an inclusive environment. Some of the key challenges include discrimination, stigma, lack of resources, negative attitudes, and behavior. For the first, discrimination. Discrimination is the unfair treatment of a person or group based on certain characteristics such as race, religion, gender, disability, or sexual orientation. And the second, stigma. Stigma is a negative labels attached to a person or group. Stigma can cause a person or group to feel inferior, isolated, and ostracized. Stigmatizing individuals with disabilities, for example, can prevent them from fully participating in society. And this stigma still occurs, especially in our country, in Indonesia. And the third, lack of resources. Lack of resources, both human and financial, can hinder the implementation of inclusive programs. For example, schools that want to implement inclusive education may lack trained teachers or adequate facility. And the fourth, negative attitudes and behaviors. Negative attitudes and behaviors such as prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination. Hostile environment for individuals who are different. There are some of the challenges that hinder the realization of an inclusive environment. So, next, we will move on to discussing inclusive education. What is inclusive education? Inclusive education is an approach to learn that ensures all students, regardless of physically, mental, social, or cultural differences, have equal opportunities to learn and develop in a supportive education environment. This means that all students, including students with special needs, learn together in regular classes with appropriate support. Some examples of good practice in inclusive education that have been successfully implemented. I have two examples. For the first, inclusion class with assistant teacher, and the second, use the assistive technology. The inclusion class with assistant teacher. One common example is the presence of assistant teacher in inclusive classroom. This assistant teacher assists students with special needs in both learning and daily activities. They can provide individuals guidance, customize learning materials, or help students interact with their peers. And the second, use of assistive technology. Assistive technology such as computers, tablets, or specialized software can be very helpful for students with special needs. For example, blind students can use screen readers, while deaf students can use hearing aids or visual communication. And then, what is the role of teachers in inclusive education? Teachers have a very important role in implementing inclusive education. As facilitators, they are tasked with adjusting learning methods, strategies, and materials to suit the individual's needs of each student, including those with special needs. In addition, teachers also act as role models by demonstrating inclusive attitudes, respecting differences, and building positive relationships so that they can become example for students in creating a friendly and inclusive environment. And then, not only that, the teacher also functions as classroom atmosphere builder by creating a positive, inclusive, and collaborative learning environment where all students feel accepted and valued. In their role as mentors, teachers provide support both academically and emotionally to students who need more attention. Finally, teachers also act as collaborators by working with parents, other education personnel, and related experts to ensure that each student receives comprehensive and meaningful education service. By fulfilling these roles, teachers speed the success of inclusive education. And secondly, what does the role of school in inclusive education? School as institution have an important role in realizing inclusive education by creating an environment that support learning for all students. For the reason, schools need to provide adequate resources such as competent teaching staff, assistive technology, and accessible facilities for students with special needs. In addition, the curriculum should be flexible and adaptable to meet the needs of diverse students. School also needs to build strong partnership with various parties, including parents, communities, and related institutions to support the success of inclusive education. And finally, equally important, schools should routinely evaluate their inclusive education program and continue to develop them to make them more effective and beneficial for all students. Okay, next, let's talk about the role of family in creating an inclusive society. The family is the smallest unit in society that has a very important role in supporting inclusiveness, especially in shaping children's character and values from early age. As role models, parents can provide examples of tolerance, respect for differences, and treating everyone fairly, which children will then imitate. In addition, families are the first place for children to learn values such as compassion, empathy, and tolerance, which are important foundation for build an inclusive society. Equally important, families also provide much needed emotional support for children, especially for those who have special needs or come from minority groups, so that they can grow up with confidence and feel accepted. And finally, what is the role of community in creating an inclusive environment? Society, as a collection of individuals living side by side, play a crucial role in creating an inclusive environment. Every individual, regardless of their background, can contribute to building a more just and equal society. Why is the role of community so important? Yeah, society has an important role in creating an inclusive environment through the establishment of social norms. When society collectively accepts and values differences, inclusive norms will be firmly embedded and guide daily interaction. In addition, communities can play an active role in education, stigma, and discrimination against minority groups or individuals with special needs, creating a more just and equal environment. Not only that, communities also have a responsibility to empower individuals within them to become agents of change who contribute to creating a supportive and inclusive environment for all. I think we have discussed inclusive education at length, so from that discussion we can conclude that inclusive education aims to create an environment where all individuals, regardless of their background, regardless of their condition, can learn and develop equally. The implementation of inclusive education is important to respect human dignity, social justice, and diversity, while supporting global goals such as SDG, quality education, reducing inequality, and sustainable development. Every child deserves a quality education without exception. Let's create an inclusive learning environment where every difference is respected and all children feel welcome. Inclusion is not just an option, but a necessity. By applying the principle of inclusion, we can build a fairer, more sustainable, and more human world. I think enough from me. Thanks for your attention. Hope we can meet in another occasion.